June 16th, 1990, a day many people in the Quad Cities area will never forget. I'm Paula Sands.
I'm Rick Benjamin. That was the day that Duck Creek and many other streams here transformed themselves into raging rivers because of all the heavy rainfall. Those waterways ended up sweeping through neighborhoods, taking out whatever was in their path.
KWQC-TV News was first out on the streets that day covering the flood and the first to bring you live updates.
KWQC-TV News went on the air first at 1 o'clock that Saturday afternoon with a special report. We broke in repeatedly all afternoon and at the top of each hour until 6. The flood, of course, the focus of our usual 6 o'clock newscast that night.
Now, this special videotape includes those hourly updates, the 6 o'clock newscast that night, and the special KWQC-TV broadcast Flood of Support.
KWQC-TV is proud to bring you this video. All the proceeds go to help the Red Cross Disaster Relief Fund here in the Quad Cities.
This is a News Center 6 special report.
Good evening. Flash flooding has made the day a chaotic one so far, especially in the Iowa Quad Cities.
Yeah, emergency crews are frantically trying to handle all the calls for assistance due to the heavy rains. The flooding stretches from Muscatine in the south to Clinton in the north, and outlying areas have also reported heavy flooding. Areas like Walcott and Donahue. So far, there have been no reports of any injuries from the flooding, but damage to homes, especially along Duck Creek, is extensive.
That's right. Many streets and intersections in the Quad City area are choked with water, and that's caused a lot of cars to be submerged. This neighborhood is at 31st and Farnham Streets in Duck Creek, along Duck Creek. Rescue workers are helping out by boat to give residents a hand moving furniture and other belongings. Residents here report that their fuse boxes have shorted, and this woman is rescuing her dog and her credit cards.
2 feet. It's coming out of the toilet and the shower and out of the washing machine hole. And
meth?
Yeah.
You seen it like this before?
Never. We just moved here 3 years ago. They said it happened 17 years ago today.
For many other residents, this is also the first time that this has happened.
Yeah, and Terry Swales, our meteorologist, is here, and boy, this thing really came down on us, didn't it?
We were watching these storms develop last night in eastern Nebraska, and as they moved across Iowa, they intensified and pretty much stayed over the same general area. So the rains that began here early this morning were over us for about 4 or 5 hours. We have some rain totals here, some unofficial rain totals to show you from around the area, and some of these are just fascinating. Around Walcott, we've seen as much as 6 to 7 inches of rain there. We also have a report from around Maysville of about 6.5 inches of rainfall. Loudon's had about 5.5 inches of rain. Downtown Moline reporting about 3.5 to 4 inches. Nichols off to our west about 5.5 inches of rain. And also over around Clinton, reports of 4 to 5 inches of rain. Now that area around Clinton not too long ago had 3-inch rainfalls. That was a couple nights ago, so that area has really seen some major problems. I know we've talked to a few people on the phone there, and it's been pretty rough in that portion of our viewing area. And so anyway, the rains have been heavy across the northern and western parts of the area, and more is expected later on tonight, so that's going to be a real concern around the area as flash flood watches and warnings are out for a good chunk of us. Here's the live radar, and it does show precipitation continuing across much of northwestern Illinois, and that extends on back down towards the Quad Cities. So the area that's been experiencing the heaviest precipitation so far is going to get a little break here over the next couple of hours. But if you notice off to the northwest of us, more rainfall developing, and it looks like that's going to be occurring across the area later on. So I can't see myself in the picture here, so I hope I'm not standing over the top of it. Maybe they can do something back in the control booth there. Is there any way you can get me over that? There we go. All right, that helps a little bit. Again, here's the rain I was talking about over northwestern Illinois, and that's what's been tracking northeast across the region. So that's exiting the area that has had the heaviest precipitation so far. Now, to the west, that's our area of concern. Can we please put that back up there one more time? I really want to talk about those storms to the west because that's going to be a problem for us. You see this out here? Very, very intense thunderstorms from Cedar Rapids back down towards Ottumwa. These are putting out some substantial rains of maybe 3 to 4 inches. So as these work on to the east, there is the chance we could see more heavy rainfall in the area later on tonight. But for the time being, the heaviest precipitation does appear to be tapering off somewhat. Now we'll go back to our graphic and show you what's happening. Low pressure is found out over the plain states with the cold front back into western Texas. And this warm front has parked itself right over the top of us. And south of that today in Missouri, temperatures are up around 90 degrees, while across northern parts of Illinois and northeastern Iowa, readings are only in the 60s. So that frontal boundary, not moving much, keeps developing showers and thunderstorms, and they track right along this front here. So the northern parts of our area have experienced rainfall for several hours. And again, it looks like with the boundary staying in here for the rest of tonight, more showers and thunderstorms will likely form and move along that, and with the ground fairly saturated, of course, more flooding a good possibility. So with that in mind, let's take a look at our satellite picture. And the coldest cloud tops are the colored ones that you're seeing here. These are getting up around 50 or 60,000 feet in the atmosphere, so they just contain tons and tons of moisture. And as you see here, they develop up across Iowa and then spread on to the east. And the storms just keep going over the same general region, so that's why the heavy precipitation in the same general spots. And again, down here, just tons and tons of warm, moist air, so that feeds the storms, and it looks like more will be developing. So with that in mind, we'll show you what we've got for watches and warnings. Now, a flood warning is in effect for these counties until 4 o'clock this afternoon. That would be northern Rock Island, Whiteside County, Clinton, Scott, and Cedar counties, basically the northern parts of the Quad City metropolitan area under the flood warning for the rest of this afternoon, and most of eastern Iowa under a flash flood watch, not only the rest of this afternoon, but for the nighttime hours as well. So all this area certainly has the potential for some more flooding. With that in mind, I think I'll step back up to the set here. And in just a little bit, of course, we'll take another look at the radar and see how things are developing there. But in a flood situation like this, the worst thing that you can do is drive your car into the water, because you just don't know what's under there. Bridges could be washed out. So that's a real dangerous thing, and most of the fatalities that occur in flash flooding occur in automobiles. So don't drive your car into something that you don't know anything about.
Definitely. And driving in from Bettendorf this morning, there were certainly a number of stalled cars that I saw and you saw as well.
Saw lots of them out there. It was a real trick to even get here today. That's why I'm dressed like this, as a matter of fact. But certainly a serious situation, and we'll be watching it the rest of this afternoon, and we'll be back with an update here in just a little bit.
All right. Thank you, Terry.
Thanks, Terry. Well, Scott County Disaster Service officials are about to begin a news briefing on the situation. City and county police and fire departments have been swamped all morning. Our Rob Lowry is standing by live at the Scott County Courthouse with an update on the situation. Rob, can you hear me? How is the briefing going?
As you've shown the folks out there, and as you've seen yourselves, much of the News Center 6 viewing area undergoing a lot of problems today. Reports of a lot of folks on top of their homes because of the water, people going to evacuation centers and so forth. It really is a serious situation, and here to fill us in more right now on Davenport's point is City Administrator Coles Mallory. Mr. Mallory?
Well, thank you very much. We do have a very serious problem in the city and in the county, and we're urging people not to travel unless there's an extreme emergency. I think we should be particularly concerned to keep children inside. We've had one confirmed drowning already this afternoon in LeClaire. The creeks are extremely dangerous. And it's not only the creeks, but manhole covers are off in the streets, and grates are off in the streets. So if you go out, a child goes out and plays in the street, could get sucked into the sewer line. We do not now know how long this emergency situation will last. There is another storm coming this afternoon, and we think there's another one coming on its heels again this evening. All of the emergency crews are out and working. All of the fire rigs in the county and the city are out and manned. We've called back all of the extra crews that we have. We don't know how long it's going to take for the waters to recede. The crews, we just simply do not have enough crews to barricade all of the streets on which there are dangers. We do have 3 emergency shelters which have been set up. One is at Grantwood School in Bettendorf, another is at Central High in Davenport, and then one of the fire stations in Davenport at 67 and Northwest Boulevard is available as a shelter. If people have an emergency, they should call 911. If you wish, we can have the chief go over some of the streets that are actually out and some of the driving conditions. This is Ernie Lester, Chief, Davenport.
Thank you. The major problem in the city is with Duck Creek. If you live north of Duck Creek or south, whichever side, stay on that side. All the streets crossing the creek are flooded, and it's impossible to get across. Also, low-lying areas of River Drive. Other east-west streets are pretty much open. To avoid blocking the streets for emergency vehicles, we request you stay at home and try to avoid use of the streets. And one last caution, if you drive through water, don't assume that there's going to be some pavement under there or there isn't going to be an open manhole cover. Use caution.
We also want to advise people of what to do if their basement is flooded. You should turn off the electricity to the house and turn off the gas service to the house. There simply are not pumps that the emergency crews can take out right now and bail out the basements.
All right, Mr. Mallory, one other thing. We'd heard a report that there were calls for some private boats to come out and help some people who were stranded. Are you aware of any of that right now?
Bud Willoughby is our county disaster service person. Bud, are you aware of that?
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
Could you come forward, sir? We've heard reports that there are calls going out for private boat owners to come forward and help with getting some folks who are stranded in their homes, maybe with the water around. Do you know anything about that at all? Come forward, sir.
There was a, thank you. There was a call went out earlier for boats to call in for. We gave them a number at that point in time. We don't know at this point if we need any more. We would ask that if you have boats that are available for us, that you would call our number at 326-8663, and we could take your number there and get back to you if we need the boats.
Okay. And Mr. Mallory, anything else the public can do if they want to help? Is the biggest help right now staying off the streets?
I think the biggest help is staying off the streets and staying home and realizing that just because it stopped raining, the emergency is not over. The creeks are still flooding, the manholes are still off in the streets, and we have another storm coming our way. It's going to look deceptively peaceful out there for a while, but it really isn't. It's an extreme emergency.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Mallory. Carolyn, that's the latest from the Scott County Courthouse. Again, a very dangerous situation. More on the way. And, of course, we'll be here if anything new happens. Reporting live from the Scott County Courthouse, Rob Lowry, KWQC-TV News.
Rob, do we have any more information on that fatality?
I'm sorry, Carol, I'm having trouble hearing you.
Do we have any more information on that fatality that was just reported? Was it a child? Do we know? Can't hear me? Okay. Well, thank you, Rob. We look forward to hearing your report at 6 o'clock.
Well, as we mentioned before, swamped cars are becoming a common sight in the Quad Cities area. There's a 2-block stretch on Farnham Street that was underwater today. More than 3 cars were submerged. A resident in the area says she'd been living in the neighborhood for 52 years and had never seen flooding this bad. Walls of homes were collapsing and at least 2 elderly people were trapped for a short time before being rescued by firefighters. We've also had reports of people trapped at Pat McGuire's restaurant on Harrison and 35th Streets in Davenport, although we understand now that those people are high and dry and are going to be staying put in the restaurant until they can get out. Also, floodwaters have surrounded Fire Station number 3 at 35th Street in Davenport. Silver Creek has flowed out of its banks all the way along 35th Street. The Vickers gas station was flooded, possibly trapping people inside. That's right next to the Pat McGuire's. Mobile homes on the other side of the creek, farther out in Davenport, were affected, and many people were trapped in their homes.
Meantime, Muscatine County has evacuated inmates from the county jail because of flooding. The county jailer says more than 24 prisoners were moved from the Washington Street jail around 8:30 this morning. Mad Creek near the jail was rising rapidly at the time. The inmates are being held in cells at the sheriff's office. Well, our Kate Worcester joins us now. She is just back from 32nd and Dubuque Streets in Davenport with more on the situation. Kate, what did you find out there?
Well, I'll tell you, Carolyn, I am just back, too. I'm sitting here soaked to my waist. It is very bad in this area, right where the bike path crosses on Brady, the 35th Street area and 32nd Street. So the situation right now, I think we have some video that we can show you of what's been going on down there. It is flooded. There are cars that are completely underwater. There you can see this is actually better than some of the stuff we saw. Here we have the water all the way up to the ceiling in people's houses. People were trying to salvage anything. There's a TV set. Most things that people were going after, though, were photographs and family pets. We did not hear of anyone being trapped in their homes. People were really just trying to get the few precious belongings out that they could capture. These are neighbors out trying to help their neighbors salvage their belongings. There is one warning. I talked to fire officials and police, and they said, please keep your children out of the water. We saw people trying to swim out with inner tubes. The current out there is very, very strong, and that's a real bad place to be. Keep your kids out of the water.
And, of course, with all those damaged homes, there's probably going to be a need for donations for food and clothing. And tonight at 6, we'll try to tell you where you can call to give your donations if you have any. Okay, thank you, Kate.
Well, meteorologist Terry Swales back with us to take another look at the situation, and more rain is apparently on the way.
I'm certain of that. This situation looks good for at least the next 12 to 24 hours for rainfall around here. Just how much is the big question. We'd like to show you the radar one more time here to give you the latest update on what's happening in terms of the precipitation. And you can see it's tapered off around the Quad Cities except for just to the east and northeast of here. Some pretty strong storms, looks like, from maybe about Port Byron on up to Sterling and Rock Falls, that area there. And then more heavy thunderstorms in central Iowa are the ones that we would be concerned with here later on tonight as they move in our general direction. So we do have the flood warning in effect for about 4 counties in the metro area here until 4 this afternoon, and we'll be, of course, watching that situation closely.
Yeah, right now it's not going to take much, is it?
It wouldn't take hardly anything. A big downpour right now, and we'll be right back in the situation we were in earlier today.
Okay, thanks, Terry. You'll be watching the situation. We want to also mention that there have been many evacuations in the Quad City area. A number of those evacuations taking place in Bettendorf in the area of Greenway Drive. We have photographer Bob Palmer has been in that location for several hours now as they try to move people out of that area. Fire and EMT crews are using Grant Wood School as a staging area, and also there's been an accident in Davenport involving a fire truck and a sports car. Injuries in that accident very bad. So we'll be continuing to watch the situation this afternoon and bring you the latest as the situation warrants.
And we do want to thank everyone for their phone calls telling us about their situations, and of course all the network neighborhood video. It's been great. Thank you.
We'll see you again at 6.
Bye.
This has been a News Center 6 special report. You're watching KWQC-TV, the news leader, making a difference in the Quad Cities. Live from the News Center, today's news with Ron Elke, Carolyn Whetstone, sports with Dan Pearson, and Lori Adams weather. This is News Center 6 at 6.
You're looking at Duck Creek, one of many small waterways that have been turned into raging rivers tonight by heavy waters.
Rescue crews and law enforcement officials are operating at full tilt at this hour, rescuing flood victims and trying to get things back to order. But that may take several more hours yet. Good evening. Flooding has claimed at least one life tonight.
LeClaire police say a young girl wading in floodwaters slipped near an open culvert. The victim was pinned about 5 feet under the water and died before rescue workers could help her. Authorities are not releasing the name of the victim at this time. And in Pleasant Valley, floodwaters destroyed a garage along the banks of Spencer Creek. High waters ripped part of the garage before sweeping the rest of the building downstream. And in Muscatine, at least one family has been evacuated due to floodwaters near Mad Creek. Authorities also report that many streets have been closed and a few cars stalled in high water. Meantime, Muscatine County evacuated more than 24 inmates from the jail because of flooding. The prisoners are being held in cells at the sheriff's office. And in Clinton, there have been no evacuations at this point. However, streets all over the city are closed and crews are working overtime, picking up trees and cleaning streets. And in the word of one Clinton dispatcher, it's a mess up here.
Well, News Center 6 meteorologist Terry Swales joins us now, and boy, what a day.
I'll say one of the most amazing ones that I've seen in my days of being a weatherman, about 14 years. Some incredible rains across eastern Iowa and western Illinois. They began early this morning. And so the last thing we need right now is any more precipitation. And actually, as we look at the radar, there is some good news. The heaviest of the showers and thunderstorms for the time being is now moving east of our viewing area. Still some heavy thunderstorms in the eastern and southeastern parts of the region. But off to the west, not much happening for the time being. So we will get a break around here during the evening hours. But the unfortunate part of all of this is that there is still a good possibility of heavy showers and thunderstorms later tonight and into tomorrow. And for that reason, flash flood watches continue in effect for most of our viewing area. So in just a bit here, we'll run down what warnings and watches are in effect for our area and also take another updated look at that radar.
Okay, Terry, we'll see you a little bit later. Well, one of the most dramatic scenes of the day was played out in Bettendorf, where for almost 2 hours, rescue crews struggled to pull several of their comrades from a raging Duck Creek. 3 men were originally swept into the creek near Skyline Drive and Parkway Drive in Bettendorf. Their boat overturned. They managed to grab onto a utility pole. But not long after that, 2 of the men were swept downstream and under the Middle Road Bridge. They surfaced unharmed on the other side. One man was left clinging to a tree branch in the middle of the water. There go 2 of the rescue workers down Duck Creek. There's the man clinging to the tree branch in the water. The swift current prevented rescuers from using boats to get to him. Finally, after more than an hour, a helicopter was brought in, and the man was lifted to safety. And that left authorities with the task of pulling to shore one of the men who'd helped in the helicopter rescue. A rope was tied around him, and he was pulled through the water to shore. To the applause of onlookers, all men are reported in good condition tonight. An area of Bettendorf along Duck Creek has been one of the areas hardest hit by the flooding. Floodwaters forced residents along Greenway Drive in Bettendorf to pack up what belongings they could and carry them out of their homes. Those who couldn't make it out on their own were assisted by medics when necessary and firefighters.
We did have several people with minor medical problems. We are treating them now. We also have asked for assistance from neighboring departments, disaster services, and we're doing the best we can.
Rescue crews did not have enough boats of their own to bring people out of flooded areas, so pleas were made for residents to donate their boats. These girls were among those trapped for a time by the rising waters.
It kept getting a little higher, and then our sump pump started backing up, and we just had water everywhere. My car was completely flooded. I tried to get my car to the street. It's unbelievable.
Not far away, this homeowner could only watch as the foundation of his home gave way, filling his basement with water and debris. Those who were forced from their homes spent part of the day in a Red Cross center at Grant Woods School, but those people have been now moved to Bettendorf High School.
And City Davenport officials have evacuated the Garden Addition in the western portion of the city. Disaster Services officials say if you live in that area off Concord between Rockingham Road and River Drive, you can seek shelter at Hayes School. Officials tell News Center 6 the drainage pumps in that area have failed, flooding the Garden Addition area.
Well, one of the hardest hit areas in Davenport is at Harrison and 32nd Street, where civilian volunteers have been launching boats to rescue trapped residents. KWQC's Ed Lewis is there now with a live report. Ed, what's going on?
And volunteers have been using this and Brady as a launch ramp for their boats as they go on their rescue missions all day today. Now, while preparing this report about the length of Duck Creek and the flooding, we rode with a pair of volunteers.
Creek, cars submerged, people trapped in their homes.
Is everybody okay?
Well, we got 2 more. Davenport Fire Department boats have been going door to door on 35th, and civilian volunteers have also been pulling people out.
A little 6-month-old baby was in one of the boats.
To the west, at Marquette, the creek became an angry river. At Wisconsin, a fire truck stalls trying to rescue a trapped driver. And there's been tragedy on land. At Hickory Grove in Kimberly, a fire truck smashes into a car, dragging it about 300 feet, according to one eyewitness. The driver was still alive when pulled from the wreckage. The eyewitness says the fire truck on the wrong side of the road couldn't stop.
Now, as you can see here along 32nd, here along Duck Creek, the water has really receded dramatically just over the past hour. Earlier, some of the car tops were just barely visible. But now, that doesn't mean the danger is over by any means at all. We've heard a number of scanner reports, police scanner reports of people wading in the water, gawking. Please stay away from Duck Creek. Stay out of it. There is still danger. That water is running very fast. And please stay tuned to us. We'll keep advising you about the very latest on the situation. Reporting live from Duck Creek, Ed Lewis, KWQC-TV News.
And as you mentioned, there still is danger out there. Utility crews and that kind of thing are still at work, aren't they? Shutting off gas and checking power outages, that kind of thing.
That's right, Ron. Especially the area from here all the way over to Brady and all along Duck Creek on the Davenport side. We have seen Iowa Electric crews with down power lines. And we'd also earlier heard reports of gas having to be shut off a little bit further west, up north around around Kimberly, around that area. So you might keep an eye out for those utility crews who may be in your neighborhood right now working.
Okay, thank you. KWQC's Ed Lewis, who's been following the flooding in Davenport all day.
Well, as we've told you, many Iowa Quad City neighborhoods are battling high water tonight. RK Worcester reports on how one central Davenport neighborhood is dealing with the problem.
Dubuque Street residents watched in shock and disbelief as floodwaters poured into their homes this morning. Dave Fisher and Tom Sandberg pulled their boat out to help their friends and neighbors.
Trying to get valuables out of the house and stuff, what we can salvage anyway, but most of it's pretty much gone.
One of their stops, Joel and Diane Carter's house. The Carters have never been so glad they bought flood insurance. The Middletons are out of town. Their friends rescued their cat and their photographs.
In an hour, I left, and there was water in the basement, just a couple inches. An hour later, it's already filled the whole basement. That quick.
People are trying to salvage anything they can. Of course, for most people, the photographs are the most important thing. But for one family, all they wanted was this ceramic figurine. Rescuing valuables without a boat was dangerous.
I wouldn't go down any further than that. You get in that current, you might be in trouble, buddy. Hey, Richie, get back up here, buddy. You get in that current, I'll suck you right down.
But watching the water wash away people's memories was too painful. So friends and neighbors waded in.
It's terrible. Our house is safe, but boy, this house is in bad shape. Look at this. We were over here this morning just trying to get water out of the basement and get the cat, and we've come back and look what we found. It's terrible.
In Davenport, Kate Worcester, KWQC TV News.
And it appears that the flooding is not over yet tonight.
No, more rain on the way. Well, there's more to come at the news center. A train crash near Morrison, Illinois.
And a helicopter plunges from the sky near Cedar Rapids. Stay with us.
When heavy rains and flooding struck the Quad Cities area, KWQC TV News brought you live and continuous reports throughout the day, capturing the drama and emotions of events as they happened.
You're looking at pictures of a dramatic water rescue today in Bettendorf.
And floodwaters have invaded homes, causing millions of dollars of damage and forcing hundreds of evacuations.
When you want to be informed first, count on the news leader, KWQC TV News.
One railroad worker is dead tonight after a train derailment earlier today.
That happened just after noon this afternoon near Morrison, Illinois. This home video was shot by D.C. Richardson of our News Center 6 Neighborhood Network. The Whiteside County Sheriff's Department says a Burlington Northern train with about 70 cars hit a bridge on a stretch of tracks that was washed out by the heavy rains. Reports say the engine tumbled into a ditch, landed on its side, and several other cars piled on top of it. The name of the worker killed has not been released. 3 other Burlington Northern workers were injured in the crash. No word on the extent of their injuries.
A sightseeing flight in a helicopter turned to tragedy last night in Cedar Rapids. The chopper was giving rides at the All-Iowa Fair when it crashed about 200 feet from a carnival ride. Witnesses say the chopper was taking off and got about 100 feet into the air when it swerved sideways and went down, killing the pilot and his 2 passengers. The pilot was from Michigan, the passengers from Cedar Rapids. No word on what caused that crash. Investigators from the Federal Aviation Administration are on the scene.
Law officials in Muscatine County have identified a body recovered from the Mississippi River yesterday as that of a missing Moline woman. That after an autopsy on the body today. In a brief statement released by the Muscatine Police Department today, officials say Mary Kirkpatrick died as a result of drowning, but there's no word from the police officials on the possibility of foul play in connection with her death. Family members had reported Mrs. Kirkpatrick missing earlier this week, and Muscatine police found her car Thursday night with personal belongings locked in the trunk. Moline police say their investigation is continuing.
Well, as we said earlier, we could see more problems from the rain later on tonight.
That's right, and Terry Swells will be next with the forecast. Stay with us. Thought you wanted to do...
When severe weather and flooding returned to the Quad Cities, the KWQC TV weather team gave early warning.
Another chance of thunderstorms during the day tomorrow and plenty of heat and humidity.
Most of northern Illinois continues in a flash flood watch.
When the floodwaters hit, no one covered the events as they happened like the KWQC TV news team. When it comes to weather forecasting and weather coverage, KWQC TV is the news leader in the Quad Cities, every day and every night.
Meteorologist Terry Swales joins us now, but first we got a couple of notes we want to get in.
That's
here.
right. The Garden Addition evacuees shelter has been moved to the Central High School in Davenport. It had previously been at Hayes School. There's also a Red Cross shelter at the Bettendorf High School in Bettendorf.
For evacuees there, and there are also a tornado reported this afternoon if this rain wasn't enough.
Yeah, down in Mercer County around Aledo, a tornado reportedly touched down there, at least briefly, although at this point no reports of any damage or injuries from that. That's one good thing about today's weather. And the thunderstorms have tapered off around most of the area for the time being, but our concern is that more may develop later on tonight and continue actually on into tomorrow before some drier air eventually moves on in here. Wow. Some of the rain totals, though, just absolutely incredible from around eastern Iowa and western Illinois. The heaviest totals so far have been coming from an area north of Interstate 80, or right around that region on to the north. Walcott, some unofficial reports of 6 to 7 inches of rain out there. The rain gauge is flowing right over the top. Loudon, Steve Gottschalk reporting 6.6 inches of rainfall, even around Maysville, a similar total. And in northwestern Davenport, over 6 inches of rain recorded at Jeff Zoggs. Nichols, Eldridge, also over the 5-inch mark. Clinton having similar rain totals of 4 to 5 inches, and even over around West Branch, in the western parts of our viewing area, over 3.5 inches of rain in the showers and thunderstorms earlier there. For the time being, just mostly cloudy skies. The sun has peeked through a little bit here in the Quad Cities, and our temperature is at 71 degrees, but the humidity is way up there, 96%. The wind is southeast at about 8, and tonight's barometer is rising some at 29.94 inches. The high temperature today here in the Quad Cities, so far 75 degrees. Not much change from the low last night of 69. Here's the interesting thing. At the Moline Airport, only about 1.5 inches of rainfall today, so the monthly total there is only about 3.84 inches. Other parts of our viewing area probably had as much as 9 or 10 inches of rain for the month of June, so we're going to see a lot of variance in the rain totals from around our region. Our normal high for this date is 83 and the normal low at about 63. Here's the radar, and it shows the latest batch of strong thunderstorms now moving east and southeast out of our viewing area. Some pretty strong storms, though, in the eastern sections of our viewing region. We're going to go in a little bit closer on the radar here, and you can see off to the east of Sterling some hefty thunderstorms there, and they extend on to the east of Kewanee, and other strong storms appear to be just down to the southwest of Galesburg. You're probably pretty close to Macomb, but they are moving to the east-southeast, taking their heavy rain and their lightning with them. And we've got some flood warnings in effect for portions of the area. This flood warning here for these counties in red exists until 7 o'clock tonight. Now, that includes Muscatine County, Scott, Cedar, Clinton, Whiteside, and Rock Island counties, all the Quad City metro area. Also, now Hancock County has also been added to this list, and that means that flooding will be a problem in these areas until at least 7 o'clock tonight. And the counties that you see colored in yellow here, the rest of our viewing area, basically under a flash flood watch for the rest of tonight. We also have a severe thunderstorm watch in effect. Lots of things to sort out for you tonight. This extends from the southeastern Iowa and west central Illinois back into northern Missouri. This would cover about the southern half of our viewing area. It's valid until 7 o'clock tonight. It means that conditions are still favorable for strong thunderstorms that not only could produce more heavy rainfall, but also some gusty winds and a lot of lightning. Notice how the thunderstorms kind of fire up last night over western Iowa and then curve on to the east, and they aren't moving very fast, so if you got under one of these things, the rain just kept on coming and coming, and it looks like tonight more storms are going to form out here in central Iowa, and eventually those should track on into the area, and that could cause more problems for us, and that's why the flash flood watches will be in effect for the rest of tonight. Our surface map would show low pressure out over the plain states today, and there's a warm front attached from that goes right into central Illinois. Now, south of us, temperatures well up in the 90s across southern Illinois and Missouri today, real toasty there, and it's this warm air, the very nose of it, coming in contact with the cooler air over northeastern Iowa and northern Illinois that's erupting in the showers and thunderstorms. And tomorrow, it does appear that this cold front will eventually come across our region, so the showers and thunderstorms will finally end sometime late tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow night. But up until that time, the threat of heavy rains will continue in our viewing area, and also the possibility of a severe storm or two. Now, again, here's this one line moving away from us. The area that's of concern now is out here in central Iowa. You can see more thunderstorms beginning to form out here, some flashing south, southeast of Des Moines, and so that's what we'll watch as it moves on in here later on tonight. If that develops and grows like it did last night, we could have some more problems with flooding in portions of our area. So, let's get to the forecast then. A flash flood watch is in effect for just about everybody tonight except for the far southern counties. Showers and thunderstorms will continue. Some of those may become heavy once again in about 70 to 74, but at least through the evening hours doesn't look too bad for most of our area. Warm and humid again tomorrow, scattered thunderstorms redeveloping, and temperatures should make it at least into the middle 80s for highs. And then the thunderstorms come to an end, and we all get a chance to relax and dry out a little bit on Monday. But again, still some potential for more heavy rains, and that's a situation we'll watch closely and have more for you tonight at 10 o'clock.
It's not so much the strength of the system, but rather the speed with which it was moving?
Right. Basically a west to east boundary set up, and so the storms just keep forming in the same general area and moving slowly off from the west to the east. And so as you get in that particular spot, they just keep forming right over the top of you. And so that's a classic flood situation, and it could redevelop again tonight. So that's why we're a little bit concerned about that.
All right.
Thanks, Terry.
Sure.
Well, no rain in suburban Chicago today, so round 3 of the U.S. Open was in full swing.
Plus, Dan Pearson will take a look at Iowa's defending state softball champs. Stay with us.
Yes, farming is a gamble, and if you get the right weather forecast, you cut down on your odds of making a poor decision. And that's why I watch the weather forecast pretty closely.
For Frank Prosky, weather is sometimes the most important news of the day.
When it comes to weather, I can count on Terry, Trish, and Lori.
Count on Terry, Trish, and Lori, your weather team, only on KWQC-TV News.
Dan Pearson joins us now.
So the sun was shining elsewhere today, huh?
Right, it hasn't rained in 3 days. You know, it rained to get the greens the way they really wanted them. But things are high and dry there, although there is a chance for rain tomorrow there. The 90th U.S. Open is far from an open and shut case through 3 rounds. There's a logjam atop the leaderboard and some new names at the very top. And near the top, a very familiar name, a 2-time defending champion. For the first 15 holes, it appeared the field would be chasing Scott Simpson on number 6. He nails this huge birdie to go -8 and into the lead. But on number 7, Mike Donald joins him, a solid bird, to go -8, part of his even par 72. Then there's that 2-time defending champ, Curtis Strange. On 17, he curls in this birdie to go 5 under. A 468 today, and he's just 2 strokes off the pace. Helping set the pace is Billy Ray Brown, who on number 13 makes some noise with that little birdie. He's a co-leader at 7 under par with Donald, just a stroke off the pace as yesterday's leader. Tim Simpson, who on 14 gets a boost with that dandy par saver. The reason Scott Simpson did not remain in control, 16 and 17. He lost 4 strokes on those 2 holes. A triple bogey on 17 was the killer. Scott Simpson is at 4 under, 3 off the pace. It's Donald and Brown on top at -7. Tim Simpson, Jeff Sluman, Larry Nelson, and Mark Brooks just a stroke back at 6 under. Strange is joined by 4 others at 5 under, including Larry Mize. Nick Faldo is in a big group at 4 under, and Jack Nicklaus is right there at -3. Standing room only in Comiskey Park tonight. The White Sox, who are just 2 games behind Oakland, are just underway with the A's. Melito Perez is on the hill for the Southsiders. Meantime, the struggling Cubs are trying to break a 5-game losing streak in Philadelphia, and the Cards tried to end a 4-game skid as host to Montreal later on tonight. On the big league diamonds already complete today, L.A. topped the Padres in National League play 5-2. Matt Williams hit his 13th homer in the Giants shutout of Atlanta. In the American League, Detroit 6, the Angels 2, and Boston beat the O's 6-3. Well, the Muscatine high school softball team is learning what it's like to be the team to beat. The defending state champs know they can't let up much during any game this season, and so far, so good in Muscatine. The Muskies are 8-1, and it looks like there's another gem of a season in the making on the Muscatine Diamond. Less than a year ago, the Muscatine softball team was on top of the state, completing a 40-6 season with a state championship win. Well, it's a new season, and just a few games ago, the team may have been a little soft.
They act like they just show up on the field and they would win. So I really emphasized that that was last year and this is this year. We got to make a name for ourselves.
The Muskies were listening to their coach. Monday, they scored 22 runs in a doubleheader sweep of Burlington. Yep, things are clicking for this team. A team stacked with 8 returning letter winners.
We have a lot of experience back, and people who are inexperienced, they're picking it up very, very well, and people are helping each other out a lot, and we're just meshing pretty good as a team.
Everyone's gunning for us this year, and everyone seems to take our games more serious than everyone else's.
Coming back as a defending state champ is never easy, but it's something many of these players have dealt with before.
The basketball team has some success. The track team's been successful. And the volleyball team's been successful. Everything that these girls have attempted, they've been successful at.
And the success story continues on the softball diamond. Well, the boxing world will have its sights set on Las Vegas tonight. That's where former heavyweight champ Mike Tyson will begin his comeback since losing his title to Buster Douglas. Tyson is expected to knock out Henry Tillman. George Foreman also a big favorite to floor Adilson Rodriguez on the same card at Caesars Palace. And a bunch of the area's basketball heavyweights will battle out tomorrow night at North Scott in the 5th Annual Quad City All-Star Classic. 2 games, boys and girls. State hoop pride is a true motivator, say the Iowa boys.
There's a little bit of rivalry because, everyone's Illinois basketball, is a lot better, and we like to be able to hold our own. And the series is even at 2-2, and we want to go up on them.
We played Rocky, Moline, and UT this year. Bednorth did, and we lost all 3 games, and we had a chance to win every game. So we're personally, I'm looking for a little revenge.
It's a big game for us. We're looking forward to it. It's a lot of pride involved. Iowa versus Illinois.
It sure seems like it's going to be a high-scoring game. You got basically both teams seem like a run-and-gun type thing. A lot of guard play.
Yeah, we're looking to push it up and shoot real quick. Not a lot of passing.
It all starts tomorrow evening at 5 at North Scott High. Ladies first and the boys game at about 7:15. Admission is $3.50. At World Cup soccer play today in Italy, Brazil moved on to the second round, shutting out Costa Rica 1-0. It was Scotland beating Sweden 2-1, and England and the Netherlands playing to a scoreless tie.
Okay, well, thanks, Dan.
Okay.
Meteorologist Terry Swales back with the weather bulletin.
Yeah, that's right. In the extreme eastern parts of our viewing area, a tornado warning has just been issued, and this is for northeastern Knox County and also Stark County in Illinois. The Knox County Sheriff reports a possible tornado near Victoria in extreme northeastern Knox County. That's near the intersection of highways 180 and 167, and this tornado was supposedly moving to the east at about 30 miles an hour. So if you're in Stark County or extreme northeastern Knox County, you're under a tornado warning this evening. And so obviously still some rough weather in the eastern parts of the area, more expected around all the area later on tonight, and we'll have, of course, more updates, I'm sure.
That stuff won't move out soon enough.
It's not going anywhere, is it?
All right, thanks, Terry. We'll be right back with more. Stay with us.
The following is a KWQC TV News special report.
And thanks for joining us tonight.
Before we tell you a lot more tonight, let's fill you in on what's happened here this afternoon. We had planned to bring you this special broadcast live from a Red Cross Disaster Relief Center tonight.
But because of the possibility of some severe weather, we decided we'd better stay here in the studio so we can bring you up to date on the very latest in the weather. And, of course, if we have any more watches or warnings, we'll let you know right away.
All right, Terry Swales will have that for us. But first, tonight, let's talk about the weather back on June 16th, almost 2 weeks ago. That day is going to remain etched in the memories of many Quad Cityans for years to come. For many, that day started with a clap of thunderstorms while most of us were probably still in bed.
Yes, now what happened is that it looked like trouble from the very start when the rain hit between 6 and 7 o'clock that Saturday morning. It came crashing down in sheets in several concentrated areas. Now, rains like that don't happen without lots of thunder and lightning, and with only short breaks in the rainfall, it didn't take long for the worst to take shape. Creeks and streams that had never been out of their banks were filling the backyards of entire neighborhoods. Streets that had never been flooded turned into rushing rivers. This is when the goodwill spirit kicked in, as so many Quad Cityans fought to save their families, neighbors, and complete strangers. After 3 straight hours of downpour, the worst hit areas had received 9 inches of rain, the storm of a lifetime, none like it in the recorded past. And hundreds pray there'll be none like it in the future. Now, here's how the damage ended up affecting Quad Cityans. There are 89 families still homeless tonight. That's 111 total people. At the peak of the crisis, 128 families needed shelter. And tonight, 39 of those families are in rental housing provided by the Red Cross. The Red Cross has also supplied about $170,000 in assistance to the families who need all kinds of necessities, food, clothing, furniture. And also, we found out that in Scott County, the total damage now is about $35 million. $35 million in Scott County alone so far.
That's right. All that rain was the end result of days of accumulation of moisture. And one man who watched things build and who knew that this particular storm system was likely to pack a heavy punch was our meteorologist, Terry Swales. He's here with us now. Terry, we've had heavy rain certainly many times in the past, but rarely with this result. Why did things turn so tragic this time?
Kind of an interesting situation. As you mentioned, we'd had rain for several weeks before this, so the ground was entirely saturated in our part of the country. And then we got the conditions necessary to produce tremendous amounts of rainfall in a short amount of time. We'll show you a graphic now which sort of depicts what the weather maps were looking like on the morning of June 16th. First of all, we had low pressure over the western portions of Iowa, and that was pulling up a lot of warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico with record heat found in Oklahoma and Texas. At the same time, we were just north of the storm track here, so we were in the cooler and drier air, and that's the combination you need to get the showers and thunderstorms to form. With the storm track moving right through the area from west to east, once the thunderstorms develop, they continue to form and move in trains across the area. So we had 3 or 4 of these tremendously strong storms come across the area and produce those rain totals of 6 to 7 inches. Now then, if we take a look at some tape from that particular evening, in fact, June 15th, the night before all this took place, we'll be able to see the thunderstorms as they were developing off to the west of us from our newscast at 10 o'clock that night. For the time being, things pretty calm around here. As you can see on the satellite picture, our skies are mostly clear. Thunderstorms have moved to the south of us today, and new ones, strong ones, forming tonight out in Nebraska and northeastern Kansas. Will be tracking across Iowa, and these are slated to arrive in our area sometime very late tonight or during the morning hours tomorrow. Now, here's the live radar tonight out of Des Moines, and it does show some of the thunderstorms in eastern Nebraska and also down into northern Kansas. These have really erupted tonight. They've reached tops of up to 60,000 feet, so they're big storms. That's why they're going to stick together and give us a pretty good chance of some thunderstorms for early tomorrow. So obviously the storms did form, and they formed in a very narrow band that covered about a 2-county area. But in Scott County, most areas had anywhere from 4 to 9 inches of rain. Northwestern Davenport, 8 inches. But then you go down to the Quad City Airport, less than 1 inch there. So really fine.
Above the river really
that was pretty much the call, right?
Thanks, Terry.
Thank you, Jeremy. When we come back here tonight, we're going to relive the real-life horror and the drama of a helicopter rescue.
We'll talk live with the man who piloted a helicopter which saved a Bettendorf firefighter from the raging Duck Creek. Stay with us.
Flood victims. Wayne Montgomery sympathizes with the damage you have sustained during the recent floods. Cash and Carry Carpet's second-floor showroom was left untouched by the floodwaters. We have over 10,000 square feet of showroom loaded with first-quality, unblemished carpet. To help our community, Wayne Montgomery is giving an additional 10% discount on already low prices to all flood victims. Also, all flood victims will receive the fastest service at both stores, Cash and Carry Carpets and Wayne Montgomery Floor Covering, Davenport.
Trim the fat, trim it, shape it up, trim, lose it, lose the fat, lose it, trim it, shape it up, trim down, shape up, trim it out, beef it up, lose it, lose it, lose.
At Eagle, we trim the fat on all our 5-star meat to less than a 1/4 inch, so you can beef up on the best without paying for excess flab.
Trim down, shape up, lose it.
Hi, I'm John Keaty, and I'm hooked on Big Top Buy-A-Thons. I can't help it. I just love having tent sales with plenty of new and used cars and trucks to choose from with real savings. Actually, when the Big Top goes up and the Buy-A-Thon music plays, I feel compelled to lower the prices on new Pontiacs, Cadillacs, Isuzus, and used cars. And it just seems right to add pony rides, clowns, Happy Joe's refreshments, and stay open till midnight.
Look for the spotlight at John Keaty's giant Big Top Buy-A-Thon.
Chi-Chi's Ultimate Combo shows how even we get carried away. It's 8 great Chi-Chi's favorites. Cheese nachos, a burro, enchilada, chili con queso, taco, beans, rice, plus Mexican fried ice cream. All at a price even we don't believe. Chi-Chi's Ultimate Combo. Better hurry in before we have second thoughts.
Chi-Chi's, a celebration of food.
One of the most dramatic scenes during the Great Flood, this in Bettendorf. 3 men who were trying to rescue flood victims by boat. They were literally left hanging on for dear life in Duck Creek after those boats overturned.
Now, 2 of the men were pulled safely to shore, but left hanging was Bettendorf firefighter Kurt Connor. His life was indeed in the hands of the pilot of a National Guard helicopter.
Rick Sawyer is the man who is at the controls. He's here now to talk with us about that experience. Rick, thanks for being with us.
Yeah, hi, Rick. Tell me, is there any time for fear in a situation like that? Did you have time to be afraid at all?
Not really. We just reacted to the call and went out there and did what we thought we had to do. No, not really sure what was going to happen when we got there. But you just have to analyze it when you get there.
You've piloted choppers, I'm sure, for many years. How tough a move was that? It seemed to be a lot of trees and power lines and things around where you were.
The biggest problem is holding your position. With that water going underneath you like that, you tend to get the illusion that you're actually going ahead with water.
Yeah,
so
you could lose your place.
Yes. Yeah. And it's the job of the crew chief to keep us where we're at and also tell us what we're trying to do with the man underneath because we can't see him at all.
Yeah.
Have you ever gone through such a rescue before, Rick? Have you ever done this before?
No.
Never?
Never.
Is there any kind of training in this area? Certainly.
Well, we do external load operations, which is basically the same thing. We hook up to loads. The crew chief has the same function, tell us where we're at in position with the load, and basically it was just like an external load.
Now,
What pilots do.
It's almost 2 weeks since the flood happened. Have you had a chance to talk yet to Kurt Connor, the man you rescued?
No, I haven't.
You really haven't?
No, I wouldn't know if I see him today.
Is that right?
No.
Do you feel? I know a lot of people have been calling you a hero. How do you feel about that word?
I don't like that word.
You don't like it?
No, it's just in the line of duty.
Okay, really?
Yes, it really is.
And anybody would have done this in your line of work?
Any of the pilots in our unit could have done the same thing, yes.
What kind of work day did you put in that weekend?
That was our normal drill weekend for the unit, so we were actually flying in away when we received the call and just responded accordingly.
Other rescues that you may have had to make that weekend, how many missions did you fly?
That was the only one we actually went out and did something. We were on call all weekend.
Yeah.
And a lot of our guys were up all night on patrol down in the other areas of town. So.
All right. Thank you,
Rick. Thank you.
We appreciate your time coming in.
Sure do.
Thanks a lot.
Well, there were certainly many heroes on that day of the Great Flood. Several people used their own boats, in fact, to rescue those who were stranded during the incident, rescuing neighbors and friends from flooded homes. Tonight, Arcade Worcester has the story of one man who left his dry apartment to help people he didn't even know.
There were hundreds of them the day of the flood. Nameless faces who, without thinking twice, reached out to help those in need. One of those faces belongs to Roger LaRose.
It all started about 9 o'clock in the morning. I decided I was going to go to the bank, and I walked out the door, and I seen all the water. And then I decided, well, this is an opportunity. I'll put my boat in. I want to see what it looks like. And next thing I know, I was helping everybody out of their houses.
Hey, out? Yeah.
Everybody was hollering, get me out, and everyone was standing at the doors in water. You know, the apartments was already full of water.
For nearly 6 hours, Roger roamed his 35th Street neighborhood. He rescued 25 people that day, including a 6-month-old baby.
I wouldn't want my little baby in a boat unless it was an emergency like that. I didn't lose nothing, but I sure feel sorry for the people who lost what they lost.
35th Street is dry now, but the remnants of the flood still remain. And while most people have been too busy to look back, when they do, they're sure to remember Roger LaRose and all the other nameless faces. In Davenport, Kate Worcester, KWQC TV News.
It was that kind of weekend, people pulling together.
And every time you see those pictures, you're amazed all over again, I think.
Almost 2 weeks has gone by, hardly.
Yes, yeah. Now, coming up next tonight, the flood relief effort has brought help from all over the country.
And when we return, we'll meet an Indiana couple whose many travels this year have led them to the Quad Cities. You're watching Flood of Support, a special report from KWQC TV News.
Few words can describe the tragedy and devastation the Quad City area incurred during the recent flooding. The disaster took its toll on many local families. I'm John Sloan. KWQC-TV, in cooperation with the Red Cross, is offering you the opportunity to help the victims of the Quad City flooding and other disasters by contributing to the American Red Cross Relief Fund. When you purchase a copy of KWQC-TV's complete news coverage of these dramatic moments, all proceeds will be given to the American Red Cross.
It's amazing, but an ad this small can move a truck this big, this fast, or empty out a garage like this, just like that. It can even turn baby buggies into bass boats, because when people are in the market to buy, sell, or trade, they turn to us.
The Daily Dispatch, Rock Island Argus, and Leader. We're the Quad Cities classified connection. Put your ad in 3 papers for 15 days, now, for as low as $4.
Your classified section. It's amazing what a little ad can do for you.
It's our 76th, and we're celebrating right up to the 4th of July. It's McElhaney Motors' 76th anniversary in Clinton, and you're the guest of honor. Be our guest to absolute minimum trade allowances of $1,076, no matter the condition of your trade. And save $3,500 on Grand Prix, $3,000 on LeSabres and Delta 88s. Buy Grand Ams for less than $8,900, and Cavaliers under $6,900. It's our 76th anniversary, and you're the guest of honor until the 4th of July at McElhaney Motors in Clinton, where we'll beat any deal. It's just that simple.
The largest, the most complete Marilat kitchen display is at Green Valley Cabinet Company. Quality cabinets with that special Marilat touch make Green Valley the place to go. And since our Marilat kitchens are at everyday low prices with a free planning service, at Green Valley Cabinet Company, you get more for your dollar. Compare. You'll see the difference. Marilat kitchens from Green Valley Cabinet Company. Ideas to build on.
Now, so far tonight, we've met many of the heroes of the June 16th flood, but there are other heroes, and their work continues to this time.
Of course, they are the people helping the flood victims get their homes and their lives back together. Right now, our Charlie Wojciechowski introduces us to a retired couple from Fort Wayne, Indiana, who came to Davenport to volunteer their help.
You got out of that van for a while, huh?
Yes. Manley Smith's day starts at Davenport's Woods Junior High. That's where more than 2,000 meals a day are prepared for the Red Cross.
Oh, chicken patties. Sounds great.
Manley and his wife Mary came from Fort Wayne, Indiana, to help the Red Cross help Davenport's flood victims. Today they'll deliver almost 300 meals to some of the homes hardest hit by the muddy waters. Like an old-time ice cream truck, the Smiths drive down West 34th Street. As soon as the window goes up, Mary has a customer.
Wait a minute. I think here he comes, my best customer. Ma'am, are you without any of your? No, we got water yesterday.
All day, Manley and Mary hand out apples and collect information.
Here's a notice about, you know about this. Okay, yeah. All right. Thank you.
For residents like Lois Erfling, who lost almost everything in the flood, the Smiths have been a link to the outside world.
It was yesterday, and they didn't see us come up to eat. We went up to school a couple times, and they sent somebody down with the food because they figured we was working late.
Oh.
And I think they've been marvelous.
Some people think the Red Cross only comes out during disasters and spends the rest of its time collecting blood. But trucks like this one are on the road sometimes for months at a time, going from disaster to disaster to disaster. What kind of response do you get when the people you go out to?
Oh, wonderful. Everybody likes to be praised a little bit. In Davenport, Charlie Wojciechowski, KWQC TV News.
It's nice that there are folks like that who are willing to just put their lives on hold, really, and respond.
That's a different kind of life, but the Manleys don't have it too bad, or the Smiths, because listen to this. They travel all over, as we heard Charlie say in that story. In the winter, they volunteer for a blood bank in Florida. So
that makes sense, I guess.
Benefits now and then, yes.
It's good for them, and they do a great job. Well, in this time of need, you can count on many people from all over, as we've seen here tonight. But there's also a helping hand coming now from many Quad City area businesses. Many have seen the suffering, and many are responding to the call for help. Our Ron Elke takes a closer look.
It was a feeling of helplessness for the hundreds forced from their homes by the deluge. But even before the floodwaters were at their deepest, businesses were coming to their aid.
People band together when there's a disaster, believe me.
At first, it was food and drink, but businesses have donated everything from medical supplies to computers. At the Grant Woods School Relief Center in Bettendorf, volunteers are trying to keep track of every business and group that's helped out. The chalkboard is full of names.
It appears that every time we're out of something and we mention that we're in need of something, it shows up.
And the donations aren't coming just from Bettendorf or Davenport, but from the entire Quad City area. Businesses, though, are making more than just donations to get flood victims back on their feet again. For those who are rebuilding or refurnishing their damaged homes, some businesses are offering their services or merchandise at a discount. City leaders say the response from the business community has played an important part in the flood recovery.
It's been widespread throughout the community, and I think we're seeing the best of the community with their contributions.
As flood victims slowly rebuild their lives, it's with the help of area merchants who've made the flood part of their business, too. In Davenport, Ron Elke, KWQC TV News.
Well, of course, there were complaints, but for the most part, the community's response to this disaster came off without too many problems.
But how do those in charge of emergency situations view their effort in this disaster of the flood? We'll find out in just a moment. This is Flood of Support, a KWQC TV News special report.
Not too big, not too small. M&M Ford is the right size of all.
M&M Ford has 1990 Tempo sale priced at just $99.50. Now with less than 10 in stock, hurry out and take advantage of this great savings. 1990 Tempo sale priced at just $99.50.
M&M Ford, we're just the right size for you.
Honey, hi. Listen, you know that indoor swimming pool you always dreamed about? Well, now we've got one right here, where the kitchen used to be.
Don't worry, Pizza Hut delivers.
Pizza Hut Delivery introduces the new Veggie Lovers Pizza. And now get one for $9.99 and a second for just $4 more. New Veggie Lovers Pizza.
For fast, free delivery, call Pizza Hut Delivery today. Limited delivery area.
Why do I save? For a rainy day, for a brighter future, for them. But where I save is just as important as why. That's why I keep going back to Davenport Bank. I get great rates, service that makes me feel special, and safety that lets me think about more important things. So be confident. Choose Davenport Bank. What you get will keep you going back.
There's no other insurance firm like it. Tristle, Graham, and Toole. Isn't it time we did business together? Tristle, Graham, and Toole.
One of the more encouraging aspects of the flood was the way the cities and Scott County responded to the whole thing.
Within minutes of the realization that heavy rains were going to touch off major flooding, disaster plans were dusted off and crews swung into action.
By Saturday morning, it was apparent this was not any ordinary rainfall. And as word spread of backed-up storm drains and rising creek levels, Davenport officials were trying to cope. The Scott County disaster plan was put into effect, with public safety employees going on emergency duty. Local officials asked Iowa's governor for help, and within hours, the National Guard was here helping deal with the spreading disaster. The high floodwaters knocked utilities out in many areas, so on Sunday, Davenport's mayor outlined what affected residents needed to do to get their power put back on. The local Red Cross had responded early on over the weekend, helping feed and house those who were displaced. And Scott County moved to open the landfill to take in damaged household goods. Davenport and Bettendorf officials scheduled a series of community meetings to help residents file for disaster aid. And the county health department mounted an effort to provide no-charge tetanus shots for those who'd spent time in the floodwaters. And Bettendorf's Lincoln Center even offered free child care so residents could devote their energies to cleaning up.
Now, our reporters and photographers, of course, were out there covering that day. They saw this emergency response plan in high gear firsthand, and it was just a short time after officials got the word of how big this problem really was.
It was really midday Saturday when all this started to take shape. One question that's emerged is how do those who did the responding see their effort, and what things might they try to do differently should we face such a situation next time? Well, joining us now is Bud Whitfield, the Director of Disaster Services for Scott County. Bud, thanks for being here tonight. What goes into setting up all those disaster plans and putting all those people in motion when things like this happen?
Basically, it is a, quote, prearranged plan that we've developed over a number of years by exercises, experiments, and actual occurrences. Basically, what happens is when we see an event of this size, of this nature, we activate what is called a call list for the Emergency Operations Center and place it into motion, put the decision makers down there to start their work.
Okay. Was there anything about this at all that caught you off guard, that you weren't prepared for?
I think the nature of this particular storm was such that it has never occurred this quickly before, that amount of water. It not so much caught us off guard as was we didn't anticipate the extent and the height of that water.
Sure.
Time-wise, when did you first see the need to swing into action?
Actually, we talked with your weatherman, Terry Swales, the night before. And actually, we had learned of it about 5:30 that morning.
Yeah, that you saw it was going to be bad. What went well for you, and what didn't go so well?
We really haven't had that much time to evaluate it. What we think right now, before we do a really in-depth evaluation, is that things went fairly well. Our officials were there on time. They activated their emergency plans rather quickly. And basically, what we know is what we've seen on TV from this point. We really haven't had time to look up.
Sure. So you've had a lot of people, of course, working, I suppose, around the clock on this whole thing. How many people and how many hours?
Oh, goodness, we don't know for sure. We really haven't had time to do that as well. But most of the officials for the first 48 hours were on continuously.
Okay.
Quite an effort by everybody, and you're happy with what they did.
So far, we think it went well.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Bud Whitfield, for being with us tonight. Well, how do folks who study the Quad City waterways view the situation?
Up next, we're going to talk live with a member of the Army Corps of Engineers about how we might be able to avoid future disasters like this great flood. You're watching Flood of Support, a special report of KWQC News.
When you come into Phillips to shop for your diamond engagement ring, you'll notice a difference immediately. It's our attitude. You see, here at Phillips, our first concern is to make sure that you're truly satisfied. That's why we offer the largest selection of unique wedding sets in the area, and why our qualified staff takes the time to show you all the facets of your special purchase. There is a better way to buy your diamond engagement ring. It's Phillips Diamond Shop.
Romance lives at Phillips Diamond Shop, Duck Creek Plaza, Bettendorf.
Come on over, folks, to Davenport Antiques 20th Anniversary 4th of July Show and Sale. Our selection is the best ever. Choose from our large selection of antique furniture, lamps, clocks, toys, china, and glassware. Be sure and register to win one of our $20 gift certificates to be given away.
And also new this year, Ben's baseball cards.
That's at Davenport Antiques on Highway 61, Maquoketa, Iowa, and Main Street in downtown Galena.
Hi, I'm John Keaty, and I'm hooked on Big Top Buy-a-thons. I can't help it. I just love having tent sales with plenty of new and used cars and trucks to choose from with real savings. Actually, when the Big Top goes up and the Buy-a-thon music plays, I feel compelled to lower the prices on new Pontiacs, Cadillacs, Isuzus, and used cars. And it just seems right to add pony rides, clowns, Happy Joe's refreshments, and stay open till midnight.
Look for the spotlight at John Keaty's giant Big Top Buy-a-thon.
This Friday and Saturday, it's Carpetland USA's 18-hour pre-holiday carpet sale. Through Saturday, every carpet, area rug, carpet, and vinyl remnant is on sale. Stainmaster carpet as little as $6.88. Special purchase carpet remnants just $77. Grass carpet at 99 cents. Plus, for these 18 hours, there's no payment, no interest till $19.91. It's Carpetland USA's biggest pre-holiday sale ever. Don't miss out, because when it's over, it's over.
Well, flooding certainly is a pretty unusual occurrence for most of us, but there are folks who study those sorts of events all the time.
Sure, and much of what that research is done by the Army Corps of Engineers. George Johnson is a hydrologist with the Corps of Engineers on Arsenal Island, and he's as good an expert on the local waterways as you're going to find anywhere. We're glad you came in tonight, George.
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson, the first question I wanted to ask you, what do you think the chances are of this sort of thing happening on Duck Creek now? We've talked about that a little bit.
Well, we've been looking at the rainfall and the flood marks that have occurred, and we found as much as 11 inches of rain in the watershed.
Wow.
And that would have a return frequency about once in 500 years. So it's a very, very rare event.
So does that mean that you're not going to be too concerned about dealing with this sort of thing again?
Actually, having had it once, you have an equal chance of having it next year. It's a 1 in 500 chance. It's like throwing the dice.
Yeah.
Once you've had it, doesn't mean you have to wait 499 years for the next one. We could have it again.
Okay. Now, George, I'm going to mention this because it was a strong rumor that was really going around that that when the creek had reached its peak height, that the Corps went ahead and opened up Lock and Dam 15, and that lowered the creek. That was you heard that rumor, didn't you?
Yes, I heard that.
Well, where did that come from? There was no truth to that. Is that the case?
There was no truth to it, no. I think the creek just receded naturally.
Okay.
We didn't do anything that I know of.
Is there anything you could have done? Would that have made any difference?
Operationally, I mean, with the...
Could that have worked?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
It might have, in fact, if you were lower to the river, it might have made it worse. It might have speeded up the flow in the lower part of the basin, made the velocities higher.
Really? Okay. Well, is there...
been harmful. So we didn't do anything.
All right. Is there anything structurally that we could do to prevent this in the future?
Sure. There are a number of things. Flood detention reservoirs could be built. It's going to be difficult in the Quad Cities with the built-up population.
That'd be putting ponds in development areas.
Yes, detention reservoirs. That's been done in many communities, and that's quite effective. I think one thing that could be done is a flood warning system and evacuation of people. The miracle of this flood was that it occurred during the daytime, and nobody got drowned. If it had occurred in the middle of the night, people would have got trapped in their basements and so forth, and I think it could have been a disaster.
All right. Thank you, George.
Hopefully it won't happen again.
Appreciate your input. Thanks a lot. Well, if you're new to the Quad City area, what you've seen in our special program tonight is typical, really, of how residents here react under some very trying circumstances.
Really shows that no matter how badly stacked the odds are against many of us, there's usually someone close by who's willing to help the not-so-lucky pull through.
Now, of course, in this half hour, we were only able to focus on a very small number of folks who gave of their time to help the flood victims, but we're not forgetting the rest of you, so here's to all of you who pitched in and made a difference in so many lives.
From the neighborhoods near Duck Creek to the Garden Addition in southwest Davenport to Louisa County, where dozens of folks spent hours and hours laying sandbags to prevent flooding there, we salute you all.
Thanks for being with us tonight, and we hope you'll join us again tonight for our news at 10 o'clock.
Good night.